One of my most requested videos of late has been to make a follow-up video to my awesome cheap physical Nintendo Switch games video. Well, I finally got off my butt and created a list of 10 more cheap physical games for the Switch. These are 10 additional games that, based on my research from PriceCharting.com, as well as my own personal research, that are available to get either new or used for around $20 or under. There are some really nice games on this list for good value. If you're looking to beef up your physical Nintendo Switch collection, you are in the right place. So hang on, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and let's go over this packed list of 10 more awesome cheap physical Nintendo Switch games worth buying. I'm going to start off with one that I honestly think that if you're a Mario fan, you probably need to own this one, especially with the sequel coming out later this year. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle takes both franchises and combines them together in an XCOM-like game scenario. For those that are unaware of what XCOM is, it's a turn-based tactics game. This game really embraces both franchises and feels like a Nintendo first-party game through and through. It's got a lot of funny moments, addicting gameplay, and it can get challenging in later parts. But honestly, I think it does have a really good difficulty curve to it. So I think as you play the game, you'll get accustomed to that difficulty. It's a good game overall. And best of all, a physical copy can go for pretty cheap, with a brand new copy going for around $18 and a used copy going for just under $15. If you like rhythm music games, Superbeat XONiC is probably one you should absolutely own. This one I obtained as a blind buy, and I was really blown away by its addicting gameplay and number of songs. I mean, this game has 68 songs you can play to, and that's pretty insane. There's a ton of unlockables that you can earn during gameplay too. There is difficulty levels for all skill levels of players, so if you're not that great at these style of games, you can still have a lot of fun with this one. I think this is one that I dare say those words, yeah, it just might be a hidden gem, honestly. This one has very easy pick up and play gameplay, and just has a great amount of content. Yeah, you know what? It is a hidden gem. I think people pass this over, not having a clue at how fun it actually is. You can get it roughly for around $19 new, or just under $15 for a used complete copy. Back to Ubisoft games for a moment, and trust me, this isn't the last time you'll see them on this list. But anyway, Rayman Legends might just be one of the best 2D platformers of all time. In the 2D platforming field, there's a lot of tough competition, but this game is absolutely great. It's been on just about every platform it seems to, since it first came out years ago, but something about it being on the Nintendo Switch just feels right. I mean, Nintendo and platformers go hand in hand, right? Anyway, if you never had a go at this game, you really should. The gameplay is so good, and if you want it on the Switch, it's cheap to obtain. It's around $18 for a new copy, and just under $15 for a used complete one. Sine Mora EX was one of the first third-party games on the Switch, as well as one of the very first shoot-'em-ups on the Switch. At launch, it was a pretty solid game, and it's still a solid release now. It is a 2D, 3D side-scroller with some pretty interesting mechanics, especially with its power-up system. It is pretty challenging, but it is a challenge that I think that you can get used to during gameplay. There's a bunch of different modes: story mode, arcade mode, score attack, and boss training too, so there's some length to this game. It can be had for around $18 new and around $12 for a used complete copy. I am a huge fan of the Oddworld games, and I was a really big fan of the Oddworld Stranger's Wrath game that came out years ago on the original Xbox. This game was quite different from the others, as it was an action-adventure game with shooting mechanics. There's also a bunch of role-playing elements too. It's really good, and still holds up to this day. The Nintendo Switch port is quite excellent, and probably the best of the versions in my opinion. You can get a physical copy for around $17 new, and around $16 used. A lot of people have been asking for shooting games on the Switch, whether it be first person or third person ones. And if you're one of those people, you might want to check out this one for your collection. When Power Rangers Battle for the Grid first came out for the Switch, I honestly thought nothing of it. I mean, prior to that, when was the last objectively good or even decent Power Rangers game? It's been years. But Battle for the Grid actually is good. It is actually a good fighting game. I know it's shocking, isn't it? I'm shocked as you are. This game is really good, especially for those looking to get into fighting games. It is a pretty good entry-level fighting game. There's a bunch of different versions, but the collector's version includes the base game with some additional characters and skins. You can obtain it for around $19 new and around $15 for a used copy. Very often, I see this drop down for way less. It's good, silly fun for everyone. Wii U owners, you will recognize this one right away. Lego City Undercover was a game that always seemed to be tied to that console. Now it's got a second chance to live, being ported to the Nintendo Switch, as well as other consoles. The Switch physical version is pretty cheap to own, at roughly 17 to 16 bucks for either a new or used copy. Unlike other Lego games, this one is not based on an existing property. Instead, it's a new IP, and this one is an action-adventure game that borrows heavily from games like Grand Theft Auto. This is a title that I can easily recommend to all players, because anyone can really have fun with this one. Okay, Starlink gets absolutely slept on. Maybe it's because it was released when the Toys to Life craze was crashing down, or maybe it's because its price came crashing down so fast, but it's a common misconception about this game that it is bad. That is an absolute lie. Starlink is actually a really fun game to play. As for Star Fox fans, you guys really need to own this, if just to own the Star Fox and R-Ring figures. Once you get the game too, you can add more ships and items through digital items if you wish. So if you want to go in with a starter pack as physical, you can. The starter pack featuring Star Fox and R-Ring can be had for roughly around $16 very often, and a little less used. As someone who was a game collector for a number of years, I can tell you this is one of those silly things that is dirt cheap now, but when people actually want it years from now, they're going to be paying a lot more, especially for new, because of that Nintendo license. Don't be one of those people, get it for cheap while you can. I think if you're a Nintendo Switch owner, you're bound to see Civilization 6 for sale at some point. And you probably have wondered, because of the cheap price tag, if it's any good. And it actually is really good. Most people will associate this game with PC gaming because of its origins, but funny enough, the Switch port is excellent and one that many recommend, including myself. Now, if you're not a strategy fan, this may not be your cup of tea, but if you like that type of gameplay, Civ 6 is a must-own for the system, featuring the full experience with hours and hours of gameplay. And it works really well in Switch portable mode too. This game too is one that is cheapest on the list, for around $15 for a new copy and $11 for a used one. And often, it can be had for much less. Definitely a tremendous value. And finally, we are at the last game on this list. And this one, even though it's much prettier on other systems and PC, it just feels right at home on the Switch. Immortals Fenyx Rising is an open world game that I really liked when it came out in 2020. It incorporates a lot of elements from Breath of the Wild, but expands it with environments that have a lot of verticality and a lot of depth and nooks and crannies for exploring. The gameplay holds up really well in my opinion. There has been some patches since its very first release, as well as expansions, but if you want to check out my original review and thoughts, you should see a link to it pop up on the top right of this video. This game can be had for around $20 new, often for less, and a little less for a used copy. Funny enough, there isn't a lot of open world games on the Switch compared to the other platforms, so if you're looking for a game to scratch that itch, this is one to get. And there you go, another 10 awesome physical games for your Nintendo Switch that, best of all, are cheap to own. If you missed the previous video in this series, you can check that out by clicking on the card in the top right of this video, or through the link I'll have posted down below. Also, just as a disclaimer, markets always change, so game values can change too, so months or years from now, prices can be, and will be, probably different. These prices in this video reflect the market currently at this moment at the time of posting of this video. Anyway, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. It lets me know that you appreciate it. And if you're not a subscriber, well, you should be, because you definitely don't want to miss out on any videos I post each and every week. Shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you for your continued support. It helps me to produce videos such as these for the channel each and every week. If you would like to additionally support this channel, you can do so by checking out the link on screen right now or in the description box down below. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you.